Steph Curry stopped his car when he saw a 12-year-old boy making impossible shots on a public court in Oakland. What happened when they met left even Curry completely speechless. Prepare yourself to witness the most emotional basketball moment that broke the internet and changed a life forever. The October sun beat down hard on the cracked asphalt of Brookfield Park in East Oakland, California. It was 4:30 in the afternoon on an ordinary Tuesday, and the basketball court was almost empty, except for a solitary figure who was dribbling a worn ball with the precision of a professional. Marcus Johnson, 12 years old, was sweating intensely as he practiced the same movement for the 100th time that day. His fake Nike sneakers, with holes on the sides, squeaked against the concrete with every pivot. The ball, a Christmas gift from 2 years ago that had already lost half of its original leather, still obeyed his commands perfectly. 3 points for the championship, Haiti murmured to himself, imitating the voice of the announcers he heard in YouTube videos. Marcus Johnson, the kid from Oakland, has the chance to... Swish. The ball traveled through the air and found only air and iron, with no net to cushion its fall. Marcus smiled. It was the 11th consecutive shot he had made from that distance. Reality, however, was just 3 blocks away, in the 2-bedroom apartment where he lived with his mother, Carmen, and his grandmother, Ruth. Carmen worked double shifts as a nurse's assistant at Oakland Medical Center, leaving at 5:30 in the morning and returning at 10:30 at night. Ruth, diabetic with heart problems, spent her days in the worn rocking chair, watching old soap operas while the glucose meter beeped insistently every 2 hours. Marcus's father, Jerome, had promised to return when things got better. That was 4 years ago. The only news that came from him was through cousin Shanice, who vaguely mentioned that he was getting by in Los Angeles. "Marcus, boy, are you going to stay there until dark?" The raspy voice of Doña Martinez, the Mexican lady who lived in the building across from the park, echoed through the rusty fence. "Just half an hour more, Doña Martinez," Marcus shouted back, preparing for another shot. "Your mother called me. She said for you to get home before 6. Your grandmother needs her medications." Marcus checked his cell phone with the cracked screen, an iPhone 7 that Carmen got on a carrier promotion. 5:15 in the afternoon. 15 minutes of lost training. But he knew Ruth depended on him to organize the evening pills. As he walked through the familiar streets of East Oakland, Marcus passed by the yellow poster taped to the door of his building. Eviction notice, 72 hours. Third notice in 3 months. Carmen tried to hide her worry, but Marcus heard her nightly phone conversations with the building manager, negotiating a few more days, promising that the next payment would come as soon as possible. The apartment smelled of medicine and the cheap perfume that Ruth had used since Marcus could remember. The television showed a rerun of Family Feud, while Ruth struggled with her knitting bag. "You're home early today, my love," said Ruth, without taking her eyes off the TV. "Coach let me out early," Marcus lied, taking off his dirty sneakers at the door. There was no coach. There was no team. The school had cut the basketball program, the EEBG, previous year due to lack of funding. "Your mother called. She said she'll be home later today. Some confusion at the hospital." Ruth finally looked at him. "Did you eat something?" Marcus opened the refrigerator. Half a gallon of sour milk, 2 slices of bread, and the remains of a roasted chicken that Carmen brought from work last week. "I'm not hungry, Grandma." "Liar," Ruth smiled. "Heat up that chicken in the microwave, and don't forget to take your vitamins." The vitamins were the only luxury that Carmen insisted on buying, even when money was tight. Athletes need proper nutrition, she always said, referring to Marcus's dream as if it were an established profession. After the improvised dinner, Marcus helped Ruth with her medications, organizing the blood pressure, diabetes, and heart pills in the plastic compartments for the week. It was a routine he had mastered since he was 9 years old. "Marcus," Ruth called as he headed to the bedroom, "come here for a minute." She was holding an open letter in her trembling hands. Marcus recognized the Oakland Unified School District logo. "What is this, Grandma?" "Your mother didn't want you to see this yet, but—" Ruth sighed. "The school is considering closing the physical education program too. Without the gymnasium, where will you train in the winter?" Marcus felt a knot in his stomach. The school gymnasium was his refuge on rainy days, the only place with regulation baskets and adequate flooring to which he had free access. "We'll find a way, Grandma. We always do." "You have so much talent, my love, just like your father had at your age." Ruth touched his face with her cold hands. "But talent doesn't pay bills, and this family needs stability." That night, Marcus lay awake in the room he shared with Ruth, listening to her irregular breathing and the noise of cars passing on the street. Through the window, he could see the lights of the Brookfield Park court. Even in the dark, he knew that tomorrow he would be there again, chasing a dream that seemed more impossible each day. On his cracked phone, he watched Steph Curry highlights from the previous season. 40 points against the Lakers. Movements that seemed impossible. Shots that defied physics. Marcus memorized every movement, every facial expression, every celebration. "One day," he whispered to himself, "one day everyone will know my name." But as sleep finally came, the school letter and the eviction notice seemed to whisper back, "But first, you need to survive." Thursday, 3:45 in the afternoon. Marcus was in his favorite position on the court, the three-point line on the left side, when he heard the soft purr of an engine stopping on the other side of the fence. It wasn't uncommon. Drivers sometimes stopped to make calls or buy drugs from the boys who hung around the corner. But this sound was different, more refined. He ignored the car and continued his routine. Dribble for 5 seconds. 2 fakes to the right. Step back to the three-point line. Shot. Swish. 11th consecutive. "Hey, man." Marcus turned around. A black man, around 30 years old, was leaning against the fence. He wore a simple Warriors hoodie, simple cap, and sneakers that Marcus immediately recognized. Air Jordan 35. Not the cheap replicas sold on International Boulevard, but the originals that cost more than his family spent on food during a month. "What's up?" Marcus responded cautiously, recovering the ball. "Can I come in? I'd like to play a little." Marcus studied the man. Average height, probably 6 feet 1 inch. Athletic build, but not intimidating. Nothing about him screamed danger. But growing up in East Oakland teaches you to be careful with strangers, especially those who drive expensive cars and wear new clothes. "The court is public," Marcus said, unlocking the metal gate. "Thank you. I'm Steph, by the way." "Marcus?" Steph grabbed the ball and took some warm-up shots. Marcus immediately noticed the perfect form. Wrist snapped on the follow-through, impeccable ball rotation, consistent rhythm. This guy knew how to play. "Do you train here every day?" Steph asked, making 4 consecutive shots from varying distances. "Whenever I can. After school. Weekends." Marcus watched every movement. "Where do you play?" "A little here, a little there. Nothing professional." Steph smiled. "How about a game of HORSE?" During the next 20 minutes, Marcus discovered he was playing against someone on a completely different level. Steph didn't just make impossible shots, he made them look routine. 3-point shots from 26 feet away, hook shots with his left hand, even some tricks that Marcus had only seen on YouTube. But what impressed Steph was that Marcus kept up. He didn't just try to repeat the shots, he made them. When Steph made a shot from half court, Marcus not only tried it, but made it too, with the same naturalness of someone making a free throw. Man, Steph stopped in the middle of the game, genuinely impressed. How long have you been playing? Forever. My dad taught me when I was little. Marcus bounced the ball nervously. Before he left. Do you have any kind of training? Coach? Team? Marcus shook his head. The school cut the program last year. I just train alone. Steph was quiet for a moment, processing the information. A 12-year-old boy, training alone on a deteriorated public court, had just made shots that most high school players would miss. Marcus, I need to tell you something. Steph sat on the concrete bleachers with peeling paint. My name is Steph Curry. Marcus froze. He looked more carefully at the man's face, beyond the cap and simple hoodie. The eyes, the smile, the well-trimmed beard. Gradually, the realization came. You're kidding. I'm not. And man, I just watched one of the most impressive displays of talent I've ever seen. From anyone, at any age. Marcus sat heavily on the bleachers, the ball rolling forgotten away. Why are you here? In Oakland? At this court? I was coming back from visiting a social project in the city. I saw you training and stopped to watch. That was 15 minutes ago, and I literally couldn't stop looking. You're lying. Marcus shook his head. Steph Curry doesn't show up at public courts in East Oakland to play horse with unknown kids. You're right. I normally don't do this. Steph laughed. But I also don't see 12-year-old boys making step-back threes like they're free throws. Marcus, you have a gift. Gifts don't pay rent. The words came out before Marcus could filter them, loaded with a bitterness that shouldn't exist in someone 12 years old. Steph was quiet for a long moment. Tell me about it. And Marcus told him about Carmen working 2 shifts, about Ruth and the medications, about the eviction notice, about the father who promised to return and never did, about dreaming of playing in the NBA while watching his family crumble around him. You know, Steph said finally, when I was your age, everyone told me I was too small to play basketball seriously, that I should focus on studies. Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, none of the big universities wanted me. But you made it there. I did, but with a lot of help. Family, coaches, financial structure. You're doing this alone, man, and you're doing better than I was doing at your age. What are you saying? Steph stood up and grabbed the ball. I'm saying I'd like to come back here tomorrow, same time. And I'd like to work with you on some things, if you're up for it. Marcus felt a mixture of hope and skepticism. Promises from adults had been broken before. Why would you do this? Because I believe in you, and because... Steph paused, choosing his words carefully. Because I want to document your journey, with a camera, so the world can see what I just saw. Like a documentary? Something like that. But first, I need to meet your family. Talk to your mother. Do this the right way. When Steph left that afternoon, Marcus stayed alone on the court until dark, wondering if he had just had the best or worst day of his life. Hope was a dangerous thing when you had so much to lose. But as he walked home, for the first time in months, Marcus found himself really believing that maybe, just maybe, something was about to change. Steph came back. Not just the next day, but every day for 2 consecutive weeks, always at 3:45, always with new equipment. In the first week, he brought official NBA balls, training cones, and a pair of Under Armour sneakers in Marcus's exact size. In the second week, he showed up with a professional camera and a discreet cinematographer named Jake. "It's nothing big," Steph explained. "I just want to document your progress, so people can see what hard work really looks like." Marcus absorbed every lesson like a sponge. Steph wasn't just teaching techniques, he was teaching mentality. How to read defenses before they even formed. How to use his disadvantageous height as a real advantage. How to turn pressure into fuel. The difference between good and great players, Steph said, while Marcus practiced dribbling drills, isn't talent. It's how they respond when things get tough. Things were getting very tough at home. Ruth had a diabetic crisis on Monday of the second week and spent 2 nights at Highland Hospital. Carmen missed work to take care of her, losing 2 days of pay she couldn't afford to lose. The eviction notice was updated to final 48 hours. Marcus started missing training sessions with Steph. Instead of going to the court after school, he started working. He delivered newspapers early in the morning, washed cars on weekends, and even helped Doña Martinez with shopping in exchange for a few dollars. "Where have you been?" Steph asked on Wednesday, when Marcus finally showed up at the court, but only for an hour. "Busy," Marcus murmured, his enthusiasm clearly diminished. Steph noticed the dark circles under the boy's eyes, the way he constantly checked his phone, the tension in his shoulders that had nothing to do with basketball. "Marcus, real talk. What's going on?" And Marcus broke down. He told about Ruth in the hospital, about Carmen losing shifts, about the electricity bill that would be cut on Friday if it wasn't paid by then. He told about how every minute he spent on the court was a minute he wasn't helping his family survive. "I can't do this anymore," Marcus said finally. "I can't stay here playing at being a basketball player while my family is drowning." Steph was quiet for a long moment. "Can I meet your mother?" "What? Can I go to your house? Talk to your family?" Marcus hesitated. The apartment was small, humble, nothing like the world where Steph lived. But there was something in the sincerity of the question that convinced him. An hour later, Steph was sitting in the cramped living room, drinking sweet tea that Ruth insisted on making despite her trembling hands. Carmen had come home early from work, still wearing her nurse's uniform, looking alternately at Steph with skepticism and admiration. "Mrs. Johnson," Steph began, "I know this must seem surreal. A stranger showing up at your door talking about your son's talent?" "That's exactly what it seems like," Carmen responded directly. "And I've seen promises from mentors, coaches, and talent discoverers before. They show up, fill my son's head with dreams, and then disappear when reality hits. I completely understand your concern, and you're right to be skeptical." Steph leaned forward. "But I'm not here to make empty promises. I'm here because your son has something special, something I recognize because I've spent my entire life in elite basketball." Ruth looked at Steph with experienced eyes. "And what do you want in return, Mr. Curry?" "Nothing. Literally nothing." Steph paused. "But I would like to offer something. Not charity, a real partnership. I would like to connect Marcus with resources, professional coaches, development programs, maybe even university scouts when he reaches the right age." "And our situation here?" Carmen gestured to the apartment around them. "Marcus is a good boy, but basketball talent doesn't solve real-world problems." "You're right. and that's why I'm here to talk to you first." Steph took a deep breath. "Mrs. Johnson, can I ask you a personal question? What's your biggest concern right now?" Carmen and Ruth exchanged glances. "Honestly, we're facing eviction. I work 2 jobs, but with my mother's medical bills and Marcus needing so many things, what if I could help Marcus get a scholarship to a preparatory school? A school that offered not only an excellent basketball program, but also first-class education? Housing included, so he could focus on studies and sports?" "That sounds like charity," Carmen said firmly. "It's not. It's investment. In return, I would like to document Marcus's journey. Show the world what it's really like to develop genuine talent. The video we're creating, Marcus would be compensated for his participation." Ruth held Carmen's hand. "Baby, maybe it's time to put pride aside and think about what's best for the boy." That night, after Steph left with the promise to return with specific information about schools and programs, Marcus sat with his mother and grandmother in the dark living room. "Do you really believe him?" Carmen asked. "Mom," Marcus said quietly, "he's already proven he's real. He showed up every day for 2 weeks. He brought equipment, but more importantly, he brought knowledge. He's teaching me things I could never learn alone." What if it doesn't work out? What if we're just another sad story he documents? "Then at least we tried," Ruth said softly. "And this boy has enough talent for 10 kids. Maybe it's time we gave him a real chance." Marcus looked out the UCBT window at the lights of Brookfield Park Court. Tomorrow, Steph would return with a plan. And for the first time in his life, Marcus allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, dreams weren't just fantasies. They could be the beginning of everything. 2 weeks later, Marcus was in the back seat of Steph's Tesla Model S, looking out the window as they crossed the Bay Bridge toward Chase Center. His hands were sweating against the real leather seats, and he constantly checked to make sure he still had the new sneakers Steph had brought. Under Armour Curry 9, size 8, never worn. "Relax, man," Steph said, looking in the rearview mirror. "It's just a training session. Some friends of mine will be there. Maybe some scouts. Nothing too serious." Marcus nodded, but the knot in his stomach suggested this was anything but nothing too serious. In the last 2 weeks, his life had changed drastically. Steph had kept all his promises. He got Marcus a full scholarship to Bishop O'Dowd High School, a Catholic preparatory school in Oakland known for its rigorous academic program and competitive basketball team. More importantly, he had established an educational fund that would cover not only Marcus's education, but also help with Ruth's medical expenses. "How do you feel?" Jake, the cinematographer, asked from the passenger seat, checking audio levels on his equipment. "Nervous," Marcus admitted. "Like, really nervous." "Nervous is good," Steph said. "It means this matters to you. Just remember what we talked about. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're just being yourself." When they arrived at Chase Center, Marcus was momentarily speechless. He had seen the building on television hundreds of times, but being there in person was different. The imposing structure, the Warriors' banners fluttering in the wind, the palpable energy of the place where his heroes played. "Let's go," Steph said, grabbing his equipment bag. "Everyone's anxious to meet you." The Warriors' locker room was empty except for some technical staff members, but Marcus could feel the history in the walls. Lockers with names he revered, championship trophies on display, photos of iconic moments in franchise history. "Marcus!" a familiar voice echoed down the hallway. Draymond Green appeared, smiling widely. "So, you're the kid Steph won't stop talking about." "Hi," Marcus managed to say, still processing the fact that he was talking to Draymond Green. "Steph showed me some of your training videos. Man, you've got some serious skills." Draymond gave Marcus a friendly pat on the back. "Ready to show what you can do?" When they entered the training court, Marcus saw it wasn't just some friends, as Steph had suggested. There were at least 20 people present, scouts from various universities, local journalists, some Warriors players, and what looked like a small crowd of people with professional cameras. "Steph," Marcus whispered, "you said it would be low profile." "It is low profile," Steph smiled. "By NBA standards. Trust me, you'll do great." The first 15 minutes were basic warm-up, dribbling drills, free throw shots, simple layups. Marcus felt uncomfortable with all the cameras pointed at him, but gradually found his rhythm. The court was perfect. Shiny floor, regulation baskets, professional lighting that made everything look sharp and clear. "Now let's see what you can really do," Steph said, positioning himself at the three-point line. "Show them that step back you did last week." And then it happened. Marcus grabbed the ball, dribbled calmly to the three-point line, looked at the basket for a moment, and then executed the movement he had practiced thousands of times on the cracked court at Brookfield Park. Step back, elevation, shot with perfect rotation. Swish. The court went quiet for a moment. "Again!" someone shouted from the stands. Marcus repeated the movement, this time from an even greater distance. Swish. "Jesus," he heard someone murmur. For the next 20 minutes, Marcus entered a zone he had never experienced before. Every shot seemed guided, every movement fluid and natural. He made 15 consecutive three-point shots from varying distances, including some from almost 33 feet from the basket. He executed crossovers that left even Draymond impressed, and finished with a movement he created spontaneously. A double step back followed by a fadeaway shot that seemed physically impossible for someone his age. When he finally stopped, breathless and sweating, the court exploded in applause. Steph was visibly emotional, wiping tears from his eyes as he hugged Marcus tightly. "Man," Steph whispered in his ear, "you just made history." In the weeks that followed, the video of the training session went viral in a way no one had predicted. 47 million views in 24 hours. Offers from university programs arriving daily. Sponsors wanting to talk about future contracts. But for Marcus, the most important change was quiet and personal. Carmen was able to reduce to one job, allowing her to be more present at home. Ruth received the medical care she needed. The family moved to a larger, safer apartment in a better part of Oakland. 6 months later, Marcus was thriving at Bishop O'Dowd, maintaining a grades while leading the junior team in scoring. But every weekend, he returned to Brookfield Park Court, now renovated and renamed Marcus and Steph Court, to train with other kids from the neighborhood. "Why do you still come here?" a young reporter asked during an interview. Marcus looked at the court where it all began, where his most impossible dreams became reality. "Because this is where I learned that dreams are just the beginning," he said. "Hard work, people who believe in you, and never forgetting where you came from. That's what really matters." Steph, watching from the stands with a proud smile, knew he had found something special on that court months ago. Not just a talented player, but a young man who understood that true success wasn't just about achieving your own dreams, but about lifting everyone around you. And when Marcus made another impossible shot, the familiar sound of the swish echoing through the renovated court, Steph knew this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. Jake's camera captured everything, and when the video aired, the entire world witnessed what happens when genuine talent meets real opportunity, and how a single afternoon can change not just one life, but an entire community. Marcus Johnson, the 12-year-old boy from East Oakland, had proven that dreams, with the right work and the right people, really can become reality.